Welcome to Expand Your Empire, the podcast where women stop deferring wealth and start building financial power. I'm Amanda Taylor, investor, strategist, and disruptor of outdated money rules. It's time to own your worth, grow your assets, and build a legacy that lasts.
Today's guest is Audrey Schoen, a licensed marriage and family therapist based in Roseville, California, who works with high achievers, entrepreneurs, executives, and couples. And I will tell you, this conversation went places I didn't plan for, which is my favorite kind. We talk a lot on this podcast about your relationship with money, how you think about it, how are you raised with it, how it drives the decisions you make in your business. But what Audrey brings to the table is a piece that a lot of us skip entirely. What that relationship does to the people closest to you. So Audrey specializes in financial therapy and therapy for entrepreneurs. And what makes her perspective so sharp is that she's a business owner herself. She is not speaking theoretically. She has lived that tipping point. She knows what it looks like when your business can't stand on its own without pulling from the resources in your life. And she knows what it costs you when you don't deal with it. So in this conversation, we get into why money is one of the most avoided topics in the therapy room. What actually happens in couples conflict when money is the surface issue, the childhood blueprints that are quietly running your financial decisions right now, and why functioning and thriving are not the same thing, even when everything looks great from the outside. So if you are a high achiever, a business owner, or someone building something with a partner, this one is for you. And excuse my dog for deciding she wanted to play ball in the middle of the episode, but welcome back to Expand Your Empire. Because we talk so much on this podcast about relationship with money,
yes,
but it's our own. I look at it from your relationship with money determines how you react and do all of these things. And then I've been reading your blogs and just looking at everything you do. And that shows up in our relationships with our partners too, in huge ways. So that was why I was just really excited to talk to you and have a conversation around it, because I think you even mentioned that people get into therapy and you can talk about your childhood trauma all day. You can talk about all these things that happened to you. But where is money in the conversation? We'll just start talking.
No, exactly. Where is money? And I think one of the issues is that people are uncomfortable talking about money in general, and then they get into therapy, and the therapist is uncomfortable about talking about money. They haven't done their own money work. Even if they have, they're not sure how to bring it into the session because money is being exchanged for the service. So there's this block or barrier to bringing up finances or money in the room when there's an exchange of money, and they aren't necessarily coming explicitly for that. But often the stuff that they're working on, the same themes, the same issues, the same boundaries, limit, excess, all the things, anxiety, all of it, will show up in their money and how they spend and how they manage it and how they relate to each other around it.
Exactly. And that's, I think, the conversation that I really want to have. As a business owner yourself, you're running your own business, you understand the unique challenges of entrepreneurship, and you've had a lot of experience, not only in your own practice and your own life, but you work with high achievers, business owners, entrepreneurs, really those motivated people. So tell me more about, and as much as you can answer, why you picked those individuals to focus on.
Well, it was kind of a natural evolution. I've been entrepreneurial and didn't really know that I was for most of my life. And then I started to own that and really dive into entrepreneurship. And there was a period of time when I was gathering my hours under supervision that I worked at a homeless women's facility. And one of the things that we had to do as a case manager and therapist was work with the women on money related issues. And we're talking about women who are on public assistance. And so they're working with a few $100s a month, but we still had to work with them on budgeting and money relationship and what money meant. And we got some training around that, a few of us, which was really amazing training. It really opened my eyes to how much money is, it's 10% numbers and 90% emotion. And the numbers matter,
Absolutely.
but only so much. And so whether you're working with $400 or $500 a month on public assistance, or you're working with 40,000 a month, it doesn't, the emotion is still there. So that opened my eyes to it. And then as I progressed in my own entrepreneurship as a business owner, I also noticed that about 30 to 40% of my existing clients were also small business owners, self-employed entrepreneurs themselves, or they became one while working with me. So I naturally tended to attract entrepreneurial types. And so I thought, well, why don't I just claim that? I'm already doing the work. So I'm going to call it what it is. So I named the specialty, and I've grown that part of that practice.
That's awesome. And I told somebody on a call probably yesterday, I think, that entrepreneurship is its own practice in self-discovery. It's its own
Yes.
therapy all
Yes.
across the board. Whether you're in relationship to someone else or not, it reveals things about yourself and your personality and your decision making that just having a job.
Wouldn't do. No, I was telling a friend of mine just again a few days ago, I said there's three things that we encounter in life that really force us or confront us with our past and our stuff. That's marriage, having children, and running a business.
Yeah,
And those are
absolutely.
the three major life events that will confront you with dealing with whatever is happening underneath.
I love that I'm going back to this, that you said because money is part of the exchange in
Hmm.
therapy, that even the therapist has a hard time bringing it up. And I had never thought about that before because as a business owner, forget what kind of business, we're charge what you're worth. Bill, this you should be charging everything and doing all this stuff. And then you're talking to someone who maybe has this poor relationship with money and how to spend it and scarcity around it. How have you navigated that?
Well, and to take it one step further with therapists
Yeah.
and helping professionals specifically, we are fed a message from the start in grad school of you didn't get into this to make money. So some people
For
explicitly say it
anybody
out loud.
listening, I just rolled my eyes really
Yeah,
hard.
I
Go
agree.
ahead.
Ridiculous, right? But there's this culture in the helping professions that some of us are trying to really break, that you're shameful if you charge too much. There's something wrong with you if you want to make money. You're here to help people, not get rich. People say this stuff out loud,
Yes, I hear it all the time.
and they shame other therapists for having financial goals. And so there's this undercurrent in the therapeutic and helping professional community that we shouldn't even be thinking about money or anything. And so it furthers the lack of personal work that we do around our relationship with money. And we take a risk in our community by breaking out of that, because we can be essentially excommunicated from certain groups of the therapeutic community for doing that work, for claiming that. And more and more people are coming into, wait a minute, that's not right. We shouldn't be making minimum wage with master's
Can't
degrees and
live on
licenses,
that.
right?
If you did that in any other industry, if you had the number of hours and training and all of the things in any other industry, think about that.
It would, like, other professionals are like, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Right?
And I have a number of clients and people that I talk to who are in that space of helping.
Yes.
And I'll say that very
Helping.
broadly,
Yes.
helping. But when you put that annotation on it, when you put that name on it, all of a sudden you're somehow not allowed to make money.
Yes, because you're profiting off of people's pain and suffering. And I'm like,
That,
no, charging good money for good services that help people make
yeah,
their lives
I'm
better.
creating transformations. Like,
Absolutely.
and I say all the time in business, but I will start to use it in this realm also, but pay for speed. Do you want to do it yourself? Do you want to learn everything yourself? Do you want to go through it yourself and have all the trial and error?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to pay for someone who has the expertise and can get you there faster? So
Absolutely.
pay for speed, because
That's right.
you're only going to be that much faster and be able to
Mhm.
become more profitable, capable, empowered
Spacious.
yourself.
Yes.
Well, that was a different conversation that I didn't plan to have, but I'm so glad we did because you're absolutely right with the amount of time, effort, energy that you've put into building your business. You're not supposed
Yeah.
to charge for it. And
Right.
people assume that it shouldn't cost anything also, not only your own peers
Yes.
in charging, but
Yes.
the people who assume, well, I shouldn't have to pay that much
Oh,
for
well, the medicalization of therapy and the this push of, well, your insurance should cover it. Well, they don't actually.
this.
Less and less, actually.
Absolutely. And I work in a lot of medical practices, and I was in dental practice management for 15 years. And I had a
Yep.
call with a lady the other day who was talking about the insurance billing and the profit margin on that. And I was like, it's never changed. I remember in dentistry, they
Yep.
hadn't updated the fee since the 1960s.
Yes.
And yet the cost of everything else is going up. So
Yes.
you're absolutely right that insurance is trying to pay as little as possible.
So they're paying less and
That's
less.
their goal. So they're
Yes.
paying less and less, and providers are then having to charge more and collect more. And
Yes.
it's created this weird dynamic of
Yeah.
patient provider relationship, and every, unfortunately, is looking for the cheapest option.
That ends up showing up in the therapy room. It ends up showing up in treatment, whether I'm working with an individual or a couple, and particularly couples, because couples is reimbursed at a lower rate than individuals. And so the people that submit super bills for the work that I do with them, they end up getting less back for the couples work. And
Wow.
so there's this financial dynamic between us. And then also we're supposed to talk about money in the room and
Yeah,
relationship to money.
that's hard work for you. So good job with that. But let's go back. You said couples, and
Yeah.
I, as someone who is in partnership with my business partner. We own a business
Mm-hmm.
together. We are both entrepreneurial. We have very different ways of operating in the world
Mm-hmm.
and in the
Yep.
business space. Where does, aside from just operational and energetic capacity and visionary and all of these things, where does money really show up in couples conflict, whether they work together or
Yeah.
not? How does that show up?
So each one of us has our own blueprint schema, right? What we learned about the value of money, what we're supposed to do with money, how it relates to our value, spend, save, enjoy, restrict. We all have a blueprint of how we
Hmm.
think about and relate to money, whatnot. And our partner has that too. And they tend to be different. And when we talk about money as a couple, often we get so caught up in the numbers and we try to be logical about it that we don't pause long enough or take a moment to reflect on what the emotion is behind it. And so I could be a great example is in a couple, and this comes up a lot, is somebody who wants to enjoy the money they make and somebody who wants to save the money that they make. And so many other problems, when they collide, they end up polarizing further and further away from each other.
Hmm.
And it pushes the conversation to be more and more divisive about the numbers. And then more and more emotion gets brought into it, and they dig their heels into their perspectives without actually understanding deeply where that came from or why they feel that way or what's important to it about that to them. And you can't come to a middle ground around money until you've had those conversations.
Which so many people don't have the tools to do.
No, well, they haven't even explored it within themselves
No.
because.
Money's numbers, money's logic. And
Mhm.
even I got into this work that I do, especially with women and money, because I wanted them investing more. I'm
Yes.
investing, I'm the only woman in the room. I see less than 2% of venture capital going to female-owned businesses, and I
Mhm.
could blame the patriarchy all day, or I could empower and educate women to
Yep.
make more, invest more, do good, all of
Yep.
these things. And when I started it, I'm like, oh, I'll just teach finance and money and investing and all this stuff.
Right.
And then I'm like, doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter. That ratio you said in the beginning, 10% money, 90% emotion and relationship and all of these things that we were never A, taught,
Nope.
and B, I think maybe it's just where I am in life. I think they're just starting to come into awareness. And even that is small.
Yes.
That, and depending on what side of the fence you're on, we've got this spiritual personal development manifestation world
Hmm. Hmm.
that's like, just think better thoughts and you'll be a millionaire.
Right.
Big, and part of that is, yes, your thoughts around money need to change. I agree with
Yes,
that. And yet you
right,
can't go sit on the couch and eat bonbons and expect $1 million to drop in your lap.
right.
Maybe it's happened for somebody. So there's this loop I feel like people get into where they either go that route of,
Hmm.
I'm just going to focus on my mindset and I'm going to attract money and all of
Hmm.
this is going to come to me and then it'll work.
Right.
And then I'm like, well, what if your business sucks? I feel like you have to have both.
Yes.
And that's why I love that you are so focused on it because it is required for
Hmm.
you to have both. And there is no part of a business long term or
Yep.
a relationship that will be successful without addressing those things because a lot of people have built their identity around some facet of money. So let's talk about money and security and worth. How do you see that show up in people? And not even just money. I talk about all the time, work equals worth. The more successful you are when the doing is
Not
partially the
necessarily.
problem.
Exactly. There's this thing that happens, particularly for the hardworking entrepreneur, that they full calendar, lots of work, lots of busyness. That busyness is sort of this value,
Yeah.
and that means I've earned it. And a lot of people have some sort of psychological cap of what their hour or time is worth. So if I'm asking for more, I have to work harder
Do
or
more.
more or do more or spend more hours or do more outside of the thing that I said I was going to do. And so we get stuck there. And then that ends up in a couple. You've got the entrepreneur who's ending up working more hours and working at night and stealing from home and still not bringing in much more money. And so their partner ends up looking at them like, you're working more, you're not earning that much more. We're still struggling, and all you do is work. Or we're okay, we have enough money. Why are you working so much more? Right. And it's this sort of never ending treadmill because people don't tend to define what's enough. They don't define it. And so even when they have enough, even when they're actually doing well and they could pull back a little, they could slow down a little, they could outsource more. They don't recognize it because they haven't set tangible, this is where the numbers matter. They haven't set the tangible money markers of, I've reached this goal. That means I'm going to invest here. I'm going to spend less time there. I'm going to stop working at 5 instead of 6. And that ends up showing up in the couple,
Yep.
right? The couple is saying, the spouse is saying, where'd you go? I need you home. I thought we were here. I thought it would get better. And the entrepreneur is like, no, we need more. What if?
And what to the scarcity point, there is the question of what is enough, but then that future, what if it stops? If I
Yes.
stop, it stops.
Yes. Not just if I stop, it stops, but if I pull back, will I reach my next goal? Or will it take me
Yeah.
longer than I want? Or can I survive a dip? And so there's the emotion of all the what ifs and the questions and the expectation. And then there's the tangible reality that people don't take time to define that can help inform their emotions.
That's true. It's both.
And it's the interaction of both.
And you said a word that I want to come back to, that the business owner is stealing
Hmm.
from the family or the relationship dynamic. Talk more about that's a
That's a big word. I know. Well, this mindset for me started back when my kids were 2. I have 8-year-old twins right now, and my kids were close to 2. And we were coming up against the decision where the part-time nanny that we had was moving away. They were ready to get into preschool daycare
Mhm.
situation. And I did the math. And what I was charging and the amount that I was making wasn't sufficient to pay for the amount of childcare I needed at a standard public
Yeah.
rate.
Yeah.
And I realized that my husband, who was working as a police officer and as a reservist, probably 60 to 80 hours a week, the grandparents who would watch my kids sometimes while I worked, and our nanny who was coming part-time, and we paid her fairly, but it probably was under market rate, if I'm being
Mhm.
honest. They were all subsidizing my low fees. Yes. And it was sort of this awakening of, oh, my business can't stand on its own 2 feet. It's being subsidized. And what's being subsidized is my clients paying lower rates than I should be charging in order to have a sustainable liquid business.
Mhm.
And so I had to make a big change. And that's where it really opened my eyes up. If my business can't operate and stay on its own without pulling from the resources in my life, time, money,
Huge.
care, all of that, then it's not a sustainable business model,
Huge,
period.
huge. And I think so many people get caught up in this assumption that this is just what it is to be a business owner.
Right.
This is just life. It may be shitty
Yep.
every day, but it's going to be like that for the rest of my life because it is what it is. And they don't
Yep.
have the drive or motivation to even fix it because they have settled on that.
This must be it.
This is it.
Right.
So how do we break that? Because my goal is to get exactly what you said, to get owners out of the operations of their business and have it
Yes.
running and sustainably on its own, period. Because I want to give them their life back, their time
Yep.
back, all of these things, right? There are ways to do that, but I think so many people get sucked into
That's just
this
the way
is
it is.
it.
That often leads to a money conversation
Yeah.
because what I'll say is, do you have the money to outsource? Well, no, I don't have the money to outsource. Well, then you're not charging enough. Then it's not a sustainable business. Well, I'm charging what other people charge. Yes, but then maybe they're not charging enough. So is that how you want to run your business? And so we'll have the conversations and really explore the emotions around what would it mean to charge more for the same thing and outsource some of it so you can afford to outsource it and still make money.
Yep.
And what does that need to look like? So there's the emotion conversation, and then we look at the hard numbers. And often we'll do the math first because they're going to have a reaction to the numbers. And then I want to work with that reaction.
I've loved that. First thing I tell people most time is you got to raise your prices.
Yeah.
You got to raise your prices, period. Number one, I don't care what it is, raise your prices.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh no, people are going to leave.
Yep.
This is that. And I, doing the numbers, showing the math, I think a 1% increase in price, you're going to lose X percent. I know the numbers are
Right.
just not off the top of my head. You're going to lose X percent of your base,
Business.
your client base. But guess what?
Makes sense.
The math works out. You make
Yes.
more money and you probably lose the worst clients anyway, who were the biggest problem. And so you bringing the numbers and that piece into the conversation
Mhm.
is huge. So
Yes.
thank you.
'Cause then we get to confront the emotions and the
Yeah.
core beliefs and the childhood experiences and the messages. And so I'll start to really dive into all that stuff. And when I'm doing that in a couple, they learn so much about each other that they didn't know before because they've never asked those questions to each other. Right.
And so childhood experience, and I was reading through a few of your blogs about you have this adaptive child. Is that what it
Yes.
was? The adaptive child. Let's talk about that because everybody, if you're not in this world of personal development and doing the work, you hear it's all based on your childhood and people shut down.
Right.
But it's so true. So let's talk about what that adaptive child is.
So I practice relational life therapy for couples. And in RLT, the adaptive child is the part of you that adapted to whatever environmental situation you grew up in and figured out how to survive them. And that can range anywhere from subtle messages and minor adaptations all the way to severe abuse and major adaptations, right? So it's broad. It's not just the severe stuff. There's the minor stuff too.
Yes.
And a good example is mine. As growing up, I had what most people consider a good childhood, and I did. And one of the key messages around money was don't pay someone to do something you can do yourself, right? And that served my parents really well in a lot of ways. That served me really well when I was young, but it stopped serving me well when I became a business owner.
Yep.
And that narrative kept me DIYing much longer than was helpful to me and delayed my progress in the early years. Granted, I learned a lot, so I knew how to hire out for the things I needed done because I knew how to do them myself.
Yes.
But it definitely delayed me. And I really had to grapple with what are people going to think that I'm paying somebody to do something that I can do myself. And then what happens is this then shows up at home. So you're running a successful business. You realize that one of the things you want to outsource is actually house cleaning. But
Mhm.
your partner comes from a similar background of don't pay someone to do something you can do yourself. How ridiculous is it to pay somebody to clean your house when you should be just doing it yourself, right? Then you get in a fight about whether or not the cleaner is worth the money
Yeah.
because you're not spending business funds on that, right? You're spending home funds
Right.
on that. And so that becomes a fight. But what you're really buying back is your time to spend with your children on the evenings
Hmm.
and weekends when you would be cleaning. And the conversation ends up being about whether or not house cleaning is worth it.
Yes.
It's not about what is my time worth with my kids,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And I think we get stuck. You're absolutely right. And I think I'm a bit older than you, but the Gen X era, I'm Gen X. And so I'm a latchkey kid. You go in,
Mm-hmm.
all that crap has to be done by the time mom and dad get home. There's no room for error. There,
Yep.
the perfection is the goal. They worked
Mm.
their tail off, and therefore you are expected to also.
Yep.
And the money piece of that, I was the labor.
Yes.
We're paying somebody else's house has to be clean, trash has to be out, laundry has to be done. Blah, blah.
Yep.
I was the labor. And
Mm-hmm.
when they got home, they were exhausted from the day. And not to say I'm the same as you. I had a relative
That
good
was good.
childhood, all things
Yeah.
considered. There are a number of things, though, based on everything you're talking about, that I can go back to and be like, I know where that came from. I see it. I got it. That's great that we can recognize it. But then I think a lot of people have a really great logical understanding of what happened, what their triggers are.
Yep.
All of they could recite it in their sleep, and yet they're
Yes.
still stuck in the same loop. So let's talk to that.
There's a few ways around that. There's traditional talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Deep exploration of the core beliefs and really connecting to the impact and the cost and the ROI and the pain of all of that.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
that can move us.
Hmm.
But there's some other cool ways that we deal with that I've really enjoyed doing. So, two of the other modalities I do are brain spotting and accelerated resolution therapy.
Tell
And
me more.
these are deep nervous system processing
Mm,
modalities. They operate in the deep brain structures like the amygdala, where we hold memories and associations and trauma reactions and triggers.
yeah.
And both of these modalities bypass the thinking brain and they reconfigure how your body stores that information
Hmm. Okay.
at the source. And it sounds kind of magical and mystical, but it is the coolest thing to experience. And I have done our team brain spotting sessions on money specifically for folks.
Wow.
And it has completely shifted how their body responds to numbers and spending and money and investments and all these things in a way that's very visceral. And so their cognitions, that the new cognitions that they're trying to adopt, feel felt.
Better.
They're deeply felt.
And felt is a thing that I think a lot of people are missing.
Yes, right.
I think we're a lot of us, at least the people that I work with in my sphere, are living from the neck up. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just, there is no connection
Yes.
to how something, or if they're so unaware of it,
And
they're
I
not
think
paying attention.
entrepreneurs to some extent there's something about that makes entrepreneurs work well because it allows you to dig deep and grind and push,
Mhm.
being disconnected from your body
Yeah.
because you're not connected to the signals of stop, slow down, you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
And then it bites you in your butt later when you burn out or you're up against the decision and the decision is made emotionally and you don't know why.
I don't know where that came from, or I don't know what.
Or why
Yeah.
can't I raise my fee? I know I need to. The numbers make sense. I understand it. It's logical, but why can't I say it when I'm in front of a client?
Yeah. Wow. I had something else I was going to say about the house cleaner. And you're absolutely right. It's at home and at work. I read a book, and I can't remember the lady's name that wrote it, but We Should All Be Millionaires.
Yes, love that book.
And so a lot of it was make as much money as you can so you can pay other people to do your stuff for you
Yeah,
in the broadest sense of the word, but
right.
that you're giving yourself your life back. You just
Yeah.
talked about people are putting the equation on the waste or the expenditure and the
Mm-hmm.
math
Mm-hmm.
and not on the relationship and the experience
Yeah.
that they're getting as a result. So That is a huge thing to wrap your head around, one. And then the hustle of the entrepreneur. I love that you said that because I don't know a single person who's done it really well and successfully that hasn't completely shut down their response and is
That's,
disassociated from that.
yep,
And you talked about too in the beginning of your business. Let's talk about bootstrapping your business and the DIY approach and all of these things. They are a necessity in the beginning.
yes,
Not many people walk into this and they're like, you know what? I just got $1 million sitting around. I'm gonna do this the right way.
right?
It doesn't work that way.
Nope.
And I look at it like one of those balance scales or a teeter-totter. At some point, you said it's serving you.
Yes,
And then you've got the law of diminishing returns there
yep,
and you are actually not growing your business at all
yes.
because it's limited by your energetic and time capacity.
And people often end up starting work with me as a therapist when they are up against that tipping point
Okay.
where they are totally at the edges of their capacity and they don't know what to do to make it different because they can't slow down, they can't back out, they can't seem to figure out how to get more time back. And that becomes psychologically too much.
It's incapacitating.
It is. And often either their children or their spouse is hitting a breaking point of, I can't
It's
do this
forcing that.
anymore. And it's forcing it.
And your stuff have made a point about functioning versus thriving.
Yes.
So tell me more about that.
So functioning can look good on the surface, but it's often at the expense of your well-being, your relationships, right? So your business is successful, maybe you're home for dinner every night, but you're checking emails on the
Yeah.
side, and maybe things look good, it's pretty on the outside, but there's this withering away happening underneath that maybe you're not connected to because everything looks good. Why don't I feel better? I should be okay versus the thriving, which is like, well, the reality is for some of the people I work with is what if you lowered your revenue goals by 10% this year? How much of your life would you get back if you gave yourself that space? You're still going to grow, but how much of your life could you get back if you actually gave yourself that space? What would that mean to your
Mhm.
family? What would that mean to the relationships in your life or your well being? When's the last time you went to the doctor
Right.
and got a physical, right? Have you had your hormones checked? All those things, right? It's like, I don't have time for that. Well, then that's a
Or
problem.
money because
Exactly.
insurance isn't paying. Or
Right?
or as an entrepreneur,
I'm
you
not
don't even
charging you.
have insurance.
That,
Or let's not go down that hole.
right?
But you're right. And I've been focused on what is the experience I want to be having, not
Yes.
how much money am I trying to make or what goal do I need to hit or how many clients do I need to close? What is the experience I want to be having during
Ex-
this? And I think if more people looked at it from that lens, they'd be like, I don't want to be working till 9 o'clock at night. I don't
Mm-mm.
want to be on call 24/7. I don't want to be doing bookkeeping because
Yes.
that's not my thing.
Right.
And it changes how you operate
It does.
and make those decisions. So I've always survival versus thriving, but functioning is good because
Looks
that's
good.
the thing with the blinders on. It looks good. It's
It even sometimes feels okay.
yeah,
It feels secure, right? It feels like, right, this is okay. We're okay. No, but one little thing and it's just going to fall. You're personally going to fall apart.
100%.
It's there.
If I could talk to you for hours, I feel like we could do like a master class on business
It'd be so fun.
and that's like let's pocket that. But if the people listening are 100% your target, they are high achievers, they are
Yep.
business owners, they may or may not be in a relationship with their business owner. I know
Yep.
so many people who are.
That's my favorite. I love that.
Good to know. So, to all the people listening that are hearing stuff and being like, yep, that's me, totally get it. What, aside from scheduling an appointment with you, what are some other things that you would recommend to at least open the door?
Yeah, I think I come from a design your life first
Mm.
perspective. And so there's this understanding, and this is actually the thought I had earlier that wasn't coming to me, is that there will be times you need to grind. There will be times you need to work
Mhm.
after the kids go to bed. There will be weekends you'll need to pull through. I get
That's
it.
it. That's
That's
it.
part of being an entrepreneur. It's going to
Mhm.
happen. And it's understanding the ability or having the ability to understand the line you need to cross back into status, back into just running the business, right? So I think of it as downshifting. Sometimes you have to shift up into high
Mm-hmm.
gear and you have to go and push for a project or hit a deadline. And then when you hit that deadline, you have to intentionally nervous system downshift
Yeah.
because your nervous system is going to say, keep going, right? You're on, what are we missing?
You're on
What's
a roll.
left? We're on a roll. What if you slow down? What ifs spill back in?
Mhm.
And so you have to intentionally downshift. So a big starting point is just noticing, starting to notice your body. Get
Mm.
reconnected to your body, the
Yeah.
sensations in your body, your nervous system. One of my biggest cues for my nervous system being upregulated is that I start looking frantically for the next thing to do and feeling like I don't know what to do. And I'm like, oh, I know what's happening right now. I need to go outside and look at the flowers for 5 minutes so that I can not worry about doing something. I'm not missing anything. It's okay.
That was literally the podcast episode that released today.
Oh, how
We're
funny.
recording this one, but me talking about the effort
Yes.
and the gaps that we're filling for no reason other than the
Don't.
intense need to do something.
Yes.
And what would that look like if we could just let what we've done do its thing without trying to add
Yeah.
additional effort? And does this effort come from clarity? Like you said, I'm in high gear for a purpose,
Mm.
or does it come from fear?
Yes. And we can ground ourselves in reality if we are deeply connected to our numbers. If we're deeply connected to what is enough, am I
Yeah,
hitting my enough goal? Because if I am, I don't need to worry. I'm actually
that's
okay.
awesome.
I can take the day and just chill,
Yeah.
actually.
And that's a thing when you ask someone, what is success? And they rarely can answer it, at least in a quantitative way.
Someone might say, I want to be able to pick my kids up from school. Great. How much money is necessary to do that? And how are you going,
Yes.
what do you need to charge in order to be able to do that in the hours that you're working so that you can support that goal? I need a number. Give me a number. How do you feel about that number? Oh, it scares
Yes.
me. I'm like, great. Why does it scare you? Let's talk. And we just deep dive. So you start asking yourself those questions of why does that number scare me? What would I need to charge? Start connecting yourself to those questions about where do I remember hearing this? What message is this coming from? How do my parents think about money? What did I learn from my parents about money? Start asking yourself those questions.
Yes.
Start exploring it. When you have a conflict with your spouse about money or spending, take a moment to back out of it and think, what am I feeling? What am I worried about, afraid of? What are my goals? What's my value here?
Mm,
What might be happening for my partner? Where does it come
yeah.
from for them? Can I
Yeah.
have empathy for that?
Yes.
Right?
Ugh, you just like that is the gold shining star
Yeah,
on the thing of putting a number on it. Put
exactly.
a number. And it seems so easy, but you're right. The minute you say it out loud in reality, you're like, oh, I
Well,
don't know how I feel about that.
exactly.
That's scary. And then working through that because you're absolutely right. We have this vague idea.
Mm.
I was on a panel last week, sorry, at the LA Tribune, and they asked what success was. And everybody said, oh, waking up, picking up my kids, taking them to school, and blah, blah. And I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
absolutely, but you can't get there
Mm-mm.
if you don't know how much it's going to cost.
That even personally, my revenue month to month can vary up to $5,000, $6,000. But I don't freak out on the low months because I know my enough number. This month is going to be an enough month. And I'm like, good, great. I have 4 days off a week with my kids this summer.
That's
And I'm
amazing.
making my enough number. So guess what? I'm okay.
That's amazing.
I'm
Well,
fine.
Audrey, I could talk to you for a long time. Like I said, I'm already, how could we do something together? But
Fun.
I think everyone should at least engage with you. I'm going to put all of your links
Thank you.
on in the post or in the show notes because I want people to be able to connect with you and engage with your work. If there's anything that I didn't ask you that
Mm.
you want to say, well, is there anything that you feel like just has to be said to this audience?
I think the thing that comes to mind really is don't be afraid of the numbers.
Mhm.
When you know what they are, I think we get anxious about it and we avoid it. When you know what the numbers are, you can then do something with them. So don't be afraid of finding out.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Let's do the math. And
Do
I
the
just
math.
wrote an article about it. People hear finance or investing. Oh, I hate math. And I'm like, that's a whole other thing we got to work on. That's
Just
a
do math.
different story for a different day. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I think I could even do a second episode if we dig into it enough and do
Love
some
it.
stuff. So I appreciate your time today, and we'll
Thank you
talk
so
soon.
much.
All right.
If this lit something up, share it, review it, and get in the room. Join the Expand Your Empire community and start turning wisdom into wealth. You're not too late, and you're not doing this alone.